Good day and welcome to another 731. That's Sports 731 Network special. I'm Coach Joe Holloway. I'll introduce my two guests in a moment. We bring you the best in not only the present, the future, but we go back to the past. And today we've got two coaches that coached at schools that we have as part of the Sports 731 Network. You don't want to miss this. This is one of those deals where you call 5 friends to tell them that it's going to be on and tell them how they can get it, and we'll tell you more about that. To my left is the defensive guru himself, our color analyst for the Huntington broadcast, Jimmy Pritchard, and he's got more stories than Carter has peanuts down in Georgia. To my right is the man that gave Southside great respectability. There's other great coaches been out there, including one of my junior high coaches. Coached with him at Northside, even though you're not supposed to say that when you mention Southside in the same word. This is Jerry Hayes, and he's got some stories. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. Gentlemen, I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to give each one of you a chance for an opening statement, anything you want to say to not only the Phillies and Mustang Nation out there. We got to include the girls some too.
Yes, sir.
And Jerry, anything you want to say to the Hawk Nation, which includes the girls and the boys out at Southside, and then we'll go from there. So we'll go, Jimmy, since you're on the left, I'm going to go opposite because I'm actually left-handed.
I appreciate this, Joe. When you called Sunday night, they said, why in the world does he want me down there? Then you said that you wanted someone that had coached, someone that was old, and someone that was kind of hanging it up. And I said, well, there's 3 for 3 right there, baby. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I really appreciate being here with Coach Hayes. We go way back. We have played each other in competition. We were in the region together for a few years there.
That's correct.
And then we used to scrimmage every fall after we got out of that. And we've had some great times, and had one of his sons up on the coaching staff with us for a while up there at Huntington. But we just got along, and anytime you always wanted to find out about a film or find out about something, knew we could always talk to Coach Hayes, and he did us. We had one of the best relationships. Now, some of it we're not going to be able to talk about here today, Coach. I mean, we can't get on the rest of it. But there's nobody in the coaching ranks I've ever been through that I have any more respect for than I do Jerry Hayes.
You're absolutely right. But I got to say this, though. When Jordan leaves the room for the only time in the broadcast history of Sports 731, I'll be the youngest man in the room.
Good gracious.
And I'm 75. Jerry, your turn.
Well, of course, I appreciate being here also. I also appreciate the people in the Hawk Nation, as you talked about. Over the years, they've been so supportive of me and our program, but also all the coaches. And talking about Huntington, we had a special relationship with Coach Pritchard and Coach Mansfield and the other coaches that were there before that. I was there before they were as head coaches. And so, I've always had a great respect for Huntington. Loved their program, loved their kids. They played hard. We knocked each other around so much. We probably ought to get arrested for as physical as some of those scrimmages were. But I believe that the same thing with all of West Tennessee.
I do too.
All the coaches back then, we got along off the field better than we did on the field. But off the field, we were all really tight. I thought we had a lot of good relationships with all these coaches around, and I really respect. I don't think these coaches have that today. I don't think they have that same camaraderie we had back then.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to jump in with this. I agree with you guys because if you remember, Jerry, sometimes it was a hut, different places like that. Y'all used to have one of the best jamborees at Huntington, and the camaraderie. We played and competed and all that. I know when you and I were at Northside, we went to it. But the coaches don't get together and eat. To be honest with you, down at Savannah, sometimes their coaches invite you over to their house to eat. If you took that long trip, you send your players back with the assistants on the bus if you tell your wife to stay there because she didn't ride the bus. But what can we do to get this back? And we had better camaraderie with the officials, even though you had, like Leo Martindale, you knew he was going to run a ball game when he called one.
Oh, yeah.
And the different guys like that. But what you could talk to, and off the field, they were jewels to sit down and eat with.
Do you remember Johnson's Day?
Oh Lord, yes.
That was the start of football season.
Yeah.
They always had. You could always go down and order your equipment. You had coaches. You had officials. They did some of this down there as well in that part. But it's just, I feel real lucky that when I first got in this racket way back, they were someone, I think, the golden age of coaching in West Tennessee. You had Jack Kane over at you had Bobby Wilson at Southside. You had Johnny Williams at Northside, John Hooper, John Tucker, Richard Ross over here at Jackson Central. And others. They're just some great football coaches in West Tennessee. When we went to that Johnson's, I always try to get near the table that those guys were sitting at. I knew better than to say anything. I just watched, listened, and learned.
That's right. Yeah.
Well,
And
John,
you're talking about some of those guys, and I'd like to say this because I've always thought this, and I want to put it out to the public. Richard Ross may be the most underrated coach.
Amen.
As far as a great coach in West Tennessee that I've ever known. Yeah. I thought he did a fabulous job and never got the status that maybe John Tucker and all those guys. But I'm telling you, this guy was a great coach.
He was with the National Guard. He was a lieutenant colonel.
Oh yeah, he almost took over the whole state at one time. He's almost going to be the commander. I think he fell short of it one rank or something.
Brought that discipline and dedication to football, and they did it right. They did it right.
Yes, sir.
And he and John Hooper played football together.
Yeah, I knew they did.
And then wound up over at Union playing together for a while before Union disbanded its program.
Mr. Pudor, that's kind of the godfather of Huntington football. That started this. Mr. Pudor, he played freshman football at Notre Dame, and then transferred. But his last 2 years, he played football and basketball at Union. He was the captain of Union's basketball team and their football team before he came to Huntington and started coaching.
Did that have any influence on y'all? I know y'all call it the single wing. It is a single wing. Sometimes it looks more like the Notre Dame box that Newt Rockney ran.
But Mr. Pudor brought that Notre Dame box when he started coaching Huntington in like 1934. And think of this. You may not have. We started football back in Huntington in 1927. We weren't the Mustangs. We were the Eagles and the Blue Eagles. Mr. Pudor came in 1934. We changed it to the Mustangs. And during that same time period, McKenzie was the Yellow Jackets. So we're going to play here in a couple of weeks. The Mustangs are going to play the Rebels. The Eagles playing the Yellow. It just don't sound the same, does it? But Mr. Pudor, when he came back to Huntington, he brought that Notre Dame box with him and put that offense in, and it's very similar to what Eric is running right now.
And it's
crazy.
Effective. Jerry, you came from a situation. Southside's only been playing football since 1956. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Jack Brown, and I think his son was a classmate of yours at one time.
No, he's a year older.
Yeah. But Jack was the first coach in 56. Now, I want to say, didn't he coach at J.B. Young before they put the schools together?
I think they did. I think he was, J.B. Young was the only school out there that had a football program.
Yeah. But y'all
Milesis didn't have
Pinson.
one. Pinson didn't have one. None of those had one. So when they consolidated, they had a football program. And, I don't know how good they were. Southside was not a great football program for a long time. I played there, and we weren't great. We had some good kids, played hard, but we just didn't have the record, that later on maybe we had a few teams that did. But it's about the community, and it's always been a really good community, real close-knit. And I'm glad to see that one of my former players is now the head coach there, Dylan Evans.
Yes.
Dylan played for me, great football player and a great kid. I hope he does well.
His mom was pretty good athletically, too.
She's pretty good, too, yes.
If Wawa Jones was here. Y'all had a winning season your first year. Jack coached them 5-3, and then I don't think the next winning season came until John Oxley's 6-4 year.
Right. That's correct.
Now, Huntington football since 1950, I don't think y'all have had a losing decade at all.
We haven't had a losing decade. Coach Ward, and, of course, Paul Ward is another one of those coaches that you could put in that same table with all those Richard Rosses. John.
Oh, yes.
When Coach Ward came to Huntington in 1955, I think it was, Coach Ward's first year at Huntington, he was 0-9-1. Okay? And trust me, we went 1-9 in Huntington one year. You do not go 1-9 in Huntington. Food don't taste good. You don't even want to go to church. It's just real. But he was 0-9-1. He was sick. He tried to resign. Mr. Pudor wouldn't let him. He said, "Nope, you're doing good." Well, during that next year, we changed preachers at the Baptist church. Young man moved into Huntington named Larry Stewart.
Yeah.
And Larry was the leading rusher, leading scorer in the state that next year, and that was one of the things that kind of took Huntington off. And during the 60s and 70s, Coach Ward, I think his winning percentage is somewhere around 75%. during that time period. Mr. Pudor's back in the 30s and 40s, his was like 70%. Mike's was 70%. Eric's is up there at 70%. So, we've been real fortunate in Huntington to have kids and players. And I got a nephew still playing this year, Haven Dillahunty. He's the starting center. He started last year as a sophomore. Okay, his dad was Brent Dillahunty that played for me. His granddaddy was Mark Dillahunty that played for Coach Ward, and his great-granddaddy, Billy Dillahunty, also played football at Huntington. And we've got other stories like that. We've got the Warbrick boys that played there. We've got all kinds of generational players that have played football. Their daddy, their grandfathers have, and I really think that's what kind of holds us. We got we talk about tradition a lot at Huntington, but we've got a lot of it because of our community.
Every time I hear that, I think of the musical in the movie Fiddler on the Roof, where the thing is tradition. I can't do it like Topol did in that. One of the Dillahunties, because you are now, Jimmy's in the Carroll County Hall of Fame. One of them's in the Carroll County Hall of Fame too. I'm not right now. I'm not. And plus, didn't they have a pretty good clothing store or something up there? The Dillahunties owned. They owned a business that was
still
pretty
do. It's
prominent.
called. My wife's working there today.
Oh, okay.
So it's a family-run business. My sister owns it, but everybody in the family kind of works at it. Cliff Dillahunty. Cliff was an all-state defensive player. He was on the first Huntington football team to go to the state championship in '99. He was on that team. And then Kyle played also back in the 95, 96 years on that. So we've had others, and of course the Warbrick boys. They finally Brady graduated a year ago, so we kind of ran out of Warbrick's there for a while.
Absolutely, Jerry. Same thing is true though of Southside. You got some names. Matter of fact, two of them that played there carry your last name, and those names are carried on. There's some family tradition. There's a lot of tradition at Jackson Southside.
Yeah, we had several kids come through. In fact, I coached so long there that I actually coached my players' sons.
Oh Lord!
Yeah,
I did the same.
I mean, that just they're talking about when I go there. Their kids, they're 18 years old, and 20 years later, they've got a kid that's 16 years old, and I'm coaching him. So, yeah, we had some of that also. Not as much as Huntington and the Milan and people like this, and I will say this. It is a lot more difficult to create that culture at a school that is not the only show in town.
That's right.
It's really, that, Joe.
Yes.
You were at Northside, and you understand that it's not as easy to create that culture that you have at a one-horse town.
Yes, sir.
And
You're right.
and I believe that we did as good as we could do, but you're not the only show in town. You don't quite get the total support. And Huntington is a place that's I've known them for years, and they just got so much tradition. And you just mentioned Huntington football. Everybody knows who we're talking about. You mentioned Milan. We know who you're talking about. So, across the state, you could go to East Tennessee right now and say Huntington. Everybody knows it. Anything about football would know that. So it's more difficult, and I'm not putting that off as any excuse. I'm just saying it's really tough when you're not the only show in town.
Absolutely. And then y'all had another situation that might have kept football from not necessarily not shining or anything, but did well. But a lot of Southside athletes, and Huntington has a similar situation, are more than one sport athletes. And so the first names I remember from Southside that played with you, were teammates of you, are Jerry McNatt and Billy Wheat.
Oh, yeah, great players.
And Mac played up at, Murray?
Murray,
Yeah,
yeah.
and didn't do badly and all that. But for both of y'all, we're going to get into some other names. Let me throw one on the table. After you've already introduced Larry Stewart, who wound up as development director at Union University. Did great. I got to teach his child. She became a Northside Indian. And but you got Bobby Hayes, who could run like a deer. Actually had more than a cup of coffee with the Denver Broncos, but got injured.
People don't understand. Bobby, he got drafted. I mean, he got signed by Ole Miss. He was at Ole Miss. Of course, when Bobby went to Ole Miss, freshmen couldn't play. They had to play a separate team or a separate schedule. They couldn't play with the varsity. So Bobby played freshman football at Ole Miss. He also played baseball at Ole Miss. So you're talking about a guy that was a two-sport athlete in an SEC school. Then, of course, he got married, and married players couldn't play at Ole Miss, so he transferred to UTM and had a great career at UTM. The year that Bobby was drafted into the pros, he was the first fullback drafted that year, okay? The second fullback drafted after that was Larry Zonka. So when you start saying that you got drafted ahead of Larry Zonka, you in high cotton right there now. So, yeah, Bobby is up there.
And injuries took
the knee injury, he never could get over it, and it just ruined it.
Well, if you ever get a chance, ask Jim Hardigree how stout Bobby Hayes is. He is one of the stoutest human beings I've ever known in my life.
Amen.
Yeah.
And a good guy, though. A good guy. You couldn't beat old Bobby. He's all right.
We talked about a pro player, one of them, and there have been many. You've got one who could also be called the one-man track team, even though I think one other young man went and threw the shot.
We had two guys. We had two guys in the state track meet when Jabari Greer and Darius Brooks.
Yeah.
And they're 3 points from winning the team title. Right. Not two guys to win the team title. That's 3 points. Separated them from winning the team title.
All right, I got it. You got to hear this one.
Okay.
We're scrimmaging Southside. It's 111 degrees. It's hot, and they're good. Jabbar had been in a car wreck the night before, and he's dinged up. Jerry said, "We're not going to play him today. He's I don't win. We're not going to take that chance." So it's hot. It's not going exactly the way he wants it to go. So the next thing I know, I look up there and hear it, zip, touchdown. What? Where'd he come from? Zip. Where's it? I said, that's Jabari. I said, I thought he wasn't going to play. Yeah, he played. And we ain't tackled him yet.
Jerry, you gotta add on to that.
Well, he was an exceptional player. If I'd have been a better coach and utilized him a little bit more, we might have won a state championship that year. Got beat by Milan, who did win it, and we probably gave them the best game they had all year.
You did.
That's just one of those things. You're just that close and just can't turn. But, again, he might have had a better coach. He might have even been better than he was.
Well,
he's the most phenomenal athlete I've ever been around. Not just football, just a phenomenal athlete, and a really good kid.
Now, years later, we didn't do a good job of recruiting. I got to teach his sister at Northside a few years later.
Yeah.
And we got to check things out there. Let's talk about it. You've introduced it, one of our network schools. And remember, folks, for the best in sports, sports731network.com, the app, and Facebook. We got it all. And there's no telling what else Jordan's going to come up with, and we'll give him credit. He's a good old Southside boy, him and Mason Taylor are.
And his mother was a good athlete.
Well, his mom could have played any sport, I don't know if she didn't hit harder than her sons did. That's no cut to them.
That's why they hit hard, because she probably told them, if you don't, I'll be after you.
Well, they come from good lineage. Their grandfather was one of our outstanding linebackers at the end of Jackson High. Yeah. Brother Stewart could put you. He was an unlicensed chiropractor. But we got Milan on hand. I want to get a couple of Milan stories. You can talk about John Tucker, who was a Northside boy. Do you know he was Thurman Reynolds' quarterback at one time?
Yes.
Now, with that body he had later in life, you would have never known he was a quarterback. But, yes, John Tucker was a quarterback.
Did he play at Union also?
He played at Bethel. And I think he was supposed to go to UTM, and I'm not sure what happened. Bud and O'Neill probably know about that a little more than I do. But John mentored a lot of us too, but you also had to be careful. Randy Barnes will tell a story later about that. But Jerry, I'm gonna let you open up with a Milan story or two. Then Jimmy's gonna have, because both y'all schools, there's more than one rivalry. Y'all open with McKenzie, which is pretty traditional. Southsiders are not allowed to like Northsiders, maybe off the field.
No, when I came to Southside, the first thing I was told, we don't care if you win another game if you beat Northside. I mean, this is people in the community. We don't care if you win another game, just beat Northside. And I thought, well, I'd like to win some more games than just to beat Northside. And it wasn't as big a rivalry to me as it was to the people there, because when I went to school, we didn't play Northside.
Yeah, there was a long time before they played.
And we didn't play JCM till after I'd been there several years.
I'm not sure if Jackson High and Southside ever played.
No, not till I started.
Now, Northside was 0-6 to Jackson
We
High.
started playing JCM. We never played Jackson High.
Yeah, and
that would have been a death warrant. But anyway, tell about Milan. I know Joe wants this story, so I'm going to tell it.
Yes, I'll confess, folks. There's one that we couldn't have the show without it. They'd burn the studio.
We're playing Milan, and it's the third round of the playoffs, and we'd beat them in the regular season, and they score with a minute to go, and it looks like the game's over. and by all practical purposes it might have been. But we get the ball back, and, of course, Adams our quarterback, and we've got T.J. Mosley. And we get the ball at the 35-yard line, and there's like a minute. I think there's a minute left in the game. Might have been a minute 5 or 10. And, there's not much time left. So I called over there and I said, look, throw the screen pass, back our little running back screen, quick screen, slow screen, because they're going to be playing back. And so we're trying to get 20 yards, maybe another 20 yards and have an attempted field goal at least, because we're only down 1. So if we can just get to a field goal, we're going to be maybe at least try it. Well, we didn't know this. When TJ gets the ball, they're so far back that he just takes off and there's nobody in his way. Then those backs start coming up. Well, they're coming up trying to tackle him, and he's a man, now I want to tell you. He stiff-armed the first guy. I thought he broke his neck. And then the next guy, he just sort of wiggles on him, and he's gone, 65 yards for a touchdown. We call it the miracle at Milan. And, of course, we win and go on to the semifinals. But people were getting in their car from Southside and Milan leaving. And the radio announcers are already saying next week we'll host Marshall County here at Milan. Then the guy says, oh, my God, they just scored. And it's one of those, it's one of those things that it's very rare you get a game
Jerry,
like
the
that.
most often question I get asked to me, did TJ really have a small cramp in one of his quadriceps?
No.
Okay, that story has been out there for years that he finished the run with, actually it was a gastrocnemius that he had a cramp in. He just cow-tromped people.
That boy was a really good football player.
We'll give you one more,
And his
then we're
brother,
going to give Jimmy
and
a
his
couple
son was a
stories.
good football player. It's a shame he had a knee injury and it probably
he's
cost him
still
a big-time
still
scholarship.
trying to get that knee to loosen up. He's playing a little bit, but it's not cut loose because that kid could fly. He could jump. Old Alley-oop Owens that y'all may remember played with the 49ers. Jackson Christian could just throw it up in the air and he'd go get it. And he's over in Arkansas, and hopefully that thing will cut loose. Both of you know how scar tissue can build up and things like that. And Jalen, they say, is getting better every day, but it's still a process. You got one more story.
Well, I'll give you a quick one with going with Milan. First of all, my youngest son coaches at Milan. That's hard for me to say that, but he does. And, of course, he is with Coach Comer. He was with Coach Comer for about 12 years at McKenzie, and then he came with him to Milan. But also we left out a coach. Jeff Morris is a great coach now. And, I coached against him. I coached against Tucker also, but I coached against Jeff Morrison. And believe me, he had them ready to play.
He can do it.
Yeah. Well, you got to coach against Tucker, and Bland had it for several years. How'd you like to be the man, either one of you, that followed John Tucker? That was Dan Bland. That's right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people. A couple of stories, Jimmy, because I know Milan alone, you've got tons of in McKenzie. Oh, Lord.
Listen to this one. This shows you the perception that people have about Huntington and Milan. We're playing USJ the next week. They're playing on Thursday night, playing Westview down here. So Milan decides, hey, look, it's late in the year. We're going to do a Thursday practice. We're all going to load up. We're going to go down to Brooks's Barn, eat supper, and go out to the ball game. So we head down here. We go in Brooks's Barn. Well, Milan is playing Westview next week. Jeff and all his coaches are in there. Okay, so we walk in. They're all sitting at the table. We all go over together, sit down. Next thing you know, pull up table. We're all sitting there. Those people, the rest of the folks in Brooks's, they couldn't eat for watching us. So I get up, go to the bathroom, come back, and this lady taps me on the shoulders. I go by and said, sir, can I ask you a question? I said, yes, ma'am. I said, are you from Huntington? I said, yes, ma'am. And they're from Milan? Yes, ma'am. I said, we thought y'all hated each other. What is all? I said, oh, man, we just do that to try to raise more ticket prices. We go to the ball game, and we walk in together, and we sit on the USJ side. We go up the steps. You ought to have heard those USJ people when they actually saw Huntington and Milan together. But they just got the best one, I think, is we always swap film with Memphis. And Jerry will tell you, when you swap film with Memphis schools, good luck.
Right.
And so what we did is Milan would always play a Memphis school, and we did. So Jeff would film any of those games that we were having a team against, and then we would film those games that they were going to play. So we were swapping. So Jeff said, we're going to be at the field house on Saturday morning. Can one of you run up here? And I said, well, I got to go swap films. I'll run the films by on Saturday morning. So I go over Saturday morning. I walk into the Milan locker room on Saturday morning. Those kids thought Satan had come in that locker room. They got to looking around and carrying on. Jeff came out, and we swapped film on them, but it got deadly quiet. He looked around and said, I don't think he've ever seen you except on the sideline before, so they didn't know how to act. So sometimes that perception is there, but Jeff Morris was a great guy to work with, just as long as you wasn't playing him on Friday night. But his kids were always going to be prepared, always going to be ready to play, and it's always going to be a ball game. But he was a good guy to work with, and everybody was. There's very few coaches that were hard to get along with. Sometimes you get kind of out of West Tennessee, and trust me, Memphis is out of West Tennessee. Yeah. And so you had to kind of work to get you some film.
It's a different world. I've had some people suggest that maybe we should let Memphis secede to Mississippi or Arkansas.
One thing that he just pointed out was that swapping films, we always swap films. They don't do that anymore.
Right.
That's where we got some of this camaraderie because we'd see each other, we'd sit around, talk, and eat. We might eat breakfast together somewhere, and swap films. But we're going to play next week.
Gotten in the car and wasn't one always that went. Two or three of us go eat breakfast. Swap film.
See, they don't do that anymore.
No.
Well, since we've introduced,
they don't have to. They just get on the computer. Boom, they got it instantly. So.
Yeah, we've introduced film swapping into evidence. The two most interesting teams I ever swapped films with was Lexington and Milan, especially when Coach Tucker was coaching Milan.
I got to coach Tucker.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm going to turn y'all loose on swapping film. And I don't know if you had the problem with Lexington we had, but we got the thing. The film came on, and they were snapping the football.
He never would swap films with me.
Oh, you must not bought him breakfast.
We never swapped films.
When we were trying to he wouldn't swap with us either because everybody else was using 16 millimeter, and he was using something like 8 millimeter. And so if he did swap, you couldn't play it unless you had and so we had to talk to other people that played them as well, or send someone. That's the one we usually took our junior high guys in middle school now, sent them up there to scout live for us.
Yeah, Jim would never scout.
Did you ever miss any touchdowns in the Milan films?
All right, this is John would do that, and we were making a copy for John one night. Okay, so I was going to get to it, so we got to it. So I said, Mike, we got to mess with you. So what we did was we had a long touchdown that we scored. It was about a 60-yard touchdown. When the kid got to about the 30-yard line, we stopped the film, okay? And we had this big TV that we were doing, so we turned the TV on. Well, Andy Griffith had just come on. Him and Opie were walking, and the whistling was going on. So we filmed that right in the middle of a touchdown run. And then we sent that to him. That night, Saturday night, I'm sitting there and I get a phone call. I pick it up. He didn't say, hello, how are you? Who is this? This is. He started cussing me right off that. He said, that film, I said, Coach, we didn't change anything. He said, I know. He said, I watched that film for 35 minutes to make sure it was the same play. 35 minutes on one play. And the reason why he was worried about somebody messed him over with films is Coach did a real good job of changing film. Yeah, that big guy be running. Next thing you know, they kick an extra point. Where?
Did y'all ever get carpal tunnel syndrome from punching the button on the old analyst projector to run stuff? Because you couldn't freeze the analyst projector. You just had to run it back.
Click, 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 click.
Oh, and you had to be in the dark. And when you come out of there, your eyes were flickering, just trying to, yeah. But I didn't have any people here, but I did have Mac McCurry at Marshall County. We're playing them, and he did the same thing, cut out some film. The night of the game, he comes over and he says, Coach, I'm sorry, my film man messed that film up and cut some of those plays out, and I know you didn't see those plays at the end. I'm apologizing. I said, oh, don't worry about it, Coach. I saw it. He said, what do you mean you saw it? I said, y'all played Crockett County the week before. I went and got PA's film, and he let me. I thought y'all didn't like each other. I said, just when we play. When we play. Other than that, we like each other fine.
West Tennessee coaches always took care of each other when they played across the river or down south.
Yep.
Yeah. Both of you played for good coaches. You can say a word about them because both of them, John Oxley does, so does the legend himself. You almost bow down when you talk about Paul Ward. Stadium's named for him. Now, Coach Swinson. Coach Swinson said Malcolm Pendergrass had a lot of influence on him.
He
and
did.
Jerry, I'll let you talk about not only your coaches, but coaches that had influence on you, and I know some did.
Well, I had, of course, I played for John Oxley as the head coach, but also Johnny Williams was my assistant coach. And that's, in fact, how I ended up as assistant at Northside was Johnny hired me, because I'd played under him. And they had a great influence on me. Just the things they taught you about character, not about football, about, being a good person, and you had to make your grades, and you had to do all these things that they emphasized that didn't have anything to do with football, had to do with life. Mm-hmm. And I'll give a shout out to both of those men because they were had a great deal of influence. Other than my father, maybe as much influence as anybody ever had on me.
You played for Paul, but who else? Talk about Paul, but who else had an influence on you, Coach?
Coach Ward was not only did I play, he's my uncle.
I did not know.
Oh,
that.
yeah. So he wanted to make real sure that I didn't get any special treatment, okay? So Coach Ward, he was always the way our relationship when I was coaching, I'd ask him a question, and he'd ask me a question back. He was going to make me learn. He wasn't going to tell me the answer. He was going to make me find the answer, which is a good way of doing it. It's a great way of learning. Coach Ward, you got to remember when Coach Ward was doing all his winning and stuff in the 60s, there were a two-man coaching staff. It was Paul Ward and Luke Welch. That's it. Mr. Pudor was his spotter. And a lot of those coaches back then, they didn't have 4- and 5-man coaching staffs. They were lucky if you had two. Sometimes you just had one plus get you a couple of volunteers working in that. So he did that. I said this once before, and I really believe that if Coach Ward was coaching today, he'd have a hard time staying in high school because he was the best line coach I've ever seen. I really believe that the amount of money that they're going to throw out there, it'd be real hard for him not to end up in a college somewhere coaching offensive line. He's the best line coach I ever worked with or ever saw in that part.
They tell me you know a little bit about line play, too.
That's where I learned it. That's where I learned it. I felt, like I said, I felt lucky. I thought I had a real good relationship with Coach Tucker. I could do some stuff with him. When I went to McKenzie, when I first started doing middle school, Jerry Eskew was the principal over there. And Jerry was a good football coach. And I got a lot on defense, especially defensive secondary, which I didn't know a whole lot about when I started this. I learned a lot of defensive secondary from sitting down with Jerry, X's and O's on pencil and paper and all that stuff. So I did that with him, and all these other people. Every time we scrimmaged or every time we got around people, I felt like I could learn from people like them. The last 2 years I coached, I've been coaching like 40 years. Coach Johnny McAdams played at Lexington, played at Tennessee, and coached at Ripley. His son was playing, so he was helping us. I learned some great defensive line technique stuff from Coach McAdams at what you would say at the end of my career. You're never going to quit learning if you'll try to learn, and it'll make you a better coach. Coach Mack made me a better coach my 37th year. I wish I'd have had him around the first and second year I'd been started. I'd been a lot better during that middle time. So you can learn from. You need to learn from anybody you're around, and that's the way to do it. Is just watch, listen, and learn.
Absolutely, Jerry. I know you and John Tucker had a kind of unique relationship.
We did.
He was quite helpful, wasn't he?
He took me under his wing when I was actually an assistant. And when I went to Southside, he said, "You just committed coaching suicide." I mean, he told me flat out. And then after a few years, he said, "Well, maybe you did a better job than I thought you was going to. Maybe it turned out better for you than I thought it was going to." But he used to call me and talk to me. And I started when I was an assistant. I was like Coach Pritchard. I sat down and talked to him at these little meetings. We had those little gatherings and stuff. And he'd just start talking football and just showing me how to run a trap, how to do this, how to do that. And for some reason, when I became a head coach, he just kept on, and he would call me, he'd come see me, he'd come to my house. So, I mean, that's unbelievable that this guy would take me under his wing, but he did. I don't know why he liked me, but he did, and it paid off for me because I learned a lot of football from him.
Two magic names at Southside, and both of them's last name is Kane, and they're slightly kin to each other. Can you say a word about them? And then I need you to come up with a couple of magic names at Huntington.
Well, both Gene and Gene Jr. You're talking about. Yep. I'm sure And, of course, Gene Jr. coached with me, and Gene Sr. had coached before I got there. So, they had – and then their Gene's other sons, Downey.
Yeah.
And then his grandson, Ethan, played for me. I'm telling you, as good as a football player. I'd like to have 11 out there just like him playing all the time. So the Canes had a great influence on Southside. For sure.
Did anybody know the split six defense any better than Gene Kane?
I guess so. But
He made it so tough
the
to
problem
block.
about the defense, I was running a 4-3 defense, and talking about Coach Ward, he come by. I think we're scrimmaging. We'd played them, and we'd run the 4-3, and he said, "You got to cover that center up, Jerry. You got to cover that center up." Of course, 4-3, you don't cover
really
the center.
believed
And he told me that. But Coach Ward was great. Coach Wilson, they're both out there watching a scrimmage one day, and for some reason, Huntington's got a pretty decent quarterback throwing the ball a little bit in the scrimmage, and we're throwing it some. And Coach Ward comes by, Coach Wilson told me that he comes by as he's walking by, and he said, "They both ought to get their butt beat for throwing that football so much, Bobby."
Oh, Lord, I can believe that now that they say. Coach, magic names, plus you got to talk about one of your teammates. You and Tim Priest had a pretty good relationship.
We did. Tim played. We played football together at Huntington. In '66, which is one of the better, not just because we were on it, but one of the better teams. Is really good because Tim was on it. Tim went on, had a great career at Knoxville. He's been a successful. He's retired now. Tim's retired, living up there. He's got a bunch of kids and grandkids running around. He's had a great time. He was an outstanding football. But you didn't see back in the '60s. You didn't see 6'1", 190-pound quarterbacks, and I mean under the center type quarterback that could run the ball, could throw the football around, turned around, played defense. He went to Tennessee, and he said the first day he was up there, he was in quarterback groups. So he went down there, and he got to look around. He picked up a football. You got to watching Bobby Scott and these other guys throwing. So he walked up and said, "Coach, can I go down to those defensive backs?" And he said, "I never came back." He said, "I saw after that first meeting, I need to go down there with those boys." So he moved down there with that.
Absolutely. You got to name or two more for me from Huntington.
If you think of it, Huntington, we've been Coach Ward was coached from the '50s up until '75. Then when he quit, Bobby Hayes took over for a few years, and then when Bobby left, Cliff Sturdivant came in, and he left Lake County and came to Huntington. And he was there for a few years, and then between Cliff and Bobby was Jerry Robinson. Jerry played at Huntington, good football player at Huntington. Real good. He don't get probably as much recognition for being the football player he was at Huntington. And he coached. Jerry coached for a couple of years. Then Cliff. And after Cliff, Bobby came back for a little bit. Then Mike Mansfield came in. And Mike the culture kind of got back together then. And when he said, "We need to kind of build this back up." We built it in the weight room. We kind of got in. First thing Mike did when he took the job is he went out and visited every freshman player that was coming in their house. Talked to their mama, their daddy, their grandmama, whoever they were living with, every freshman football player that was coming in, and said, "This is what we're going to do. This is how your kids are going to be treated. This is what they're going to do." And we got to kind of built that culture from there on. The off seasons where we felt like that we did the most work with our kids and got a lot of good stuff going with that because we hadn't had a lot of weights in Huntington before Mike got there, and then after that we kind of put it together and got going through there. So you had those folks. Dale Mann coached with us for a lot of years. Dale was the offensive coordinator before Coach Swenson took over as offensive coordinator, and Dale's a good football coach. So Dale played football, good football player, and he's a good football coach.
Dale coached with me.
Yes, sir.
At Trenton.
Yes, sir. Did a good job for you and learned.
He did.
So there's a lot of we had that Coach Robbie Miller that's coaching for us now, defense coordinator there, has done a great job. He's been there with Coach Swenson since he got back. Robbie played football at Huntington. He went to he coached. He went to Arlington for a while and coached, and he came back. So these are names of people that have been around and have come through the system. Will Blow coached for a while, and Will went to Camden, had a good career at Camden as their head coach over there for a while. Now I think he's working as assistant principal or something over there in that part of it.
Final statements about to come up on this show. I hate to end it. We've actually gone overtime, but my boss is here. He's a hawk, and I guess with Jerry here, he's cut me a little slack on this one. But we do need. I'm going to put the B on both of you before I let you give your final statements. Anything you want to say to all the football fans out there? Will you come back and let's do this again? Because I think Jordan and I both got some ideas, and we need to get. I wouldn't even mind seeing another Johnson's Day. We can't have it at Johnson's because they're kind of out of business, but something like that would be good. Jerry, anything you want to say about your old school, about football in general? You still got vested interest because of your son. And
Well,
take it
I
away.
appreciate all of the support and the people at Southside. They were great. Those 25 years I was there, and also the whole West Tennessee community. And also people like you, Joe, and all of the broadcasting, all of the writers at the Jackson Sun, they were so fair to us and did such a good job. I really appreciated how we got treated.
I miss Dan Morris.
Yeah, Dan was great.
I really did.
Dan was good. See, by living in Jackson, I got to know Jack Heard and John D. Graham, who are recognized as more than legends in the sports writing thing. And Dan Morris, super guy for a guy that came from Cheatham County.
Amen.
I wonder if Pat Head beat on him playing basketball sometime. Jimmy, anything you want to say to not the Huntington fans, but everybody?
You know, it's football. I think is still one of the best sports that you can have. And I know I'm not downgrading basketball, baseball, but in football it's a little bit different because of the way you have to work together, the numbers that you have to look at. You know, if you're playing baseball and the shortstop picks the ball up, makes the error, throws it 9 feet over the first baseman's head, first baseman over here, he's fussing, the shortstop over here, he's fussing. You have a football, guard pulls out, misses a block, back gets blown all to pieces. Well, those guys, they got to go huddle up together. They got to learn how to get along with each other when you have good stuff and bad stuff. And I think if by learning that in football, it's something that can help you on down. And the way I think people need to watch that and understand that is that these are kids. They are kids learning a game that will help them from there on. And again, Forever Communications, they've been one of the best group of people to work with I have the last couple of years. They've been great to know football coach. And by the way y'all can bring the games to people that can't go out anymore. There are a lot of people that can't go watch ball games, but they can sit at home and see every bit of it. And our folks, we don't travel as good as we used to because they like to sit at home and watch it on Friday night there. It's a little bit simpler. So I think that is good. And I don't want to get on a soapbox, but one negative, I'm real concerned about this transfer and NIL.
Amen.
I didn't think it would get down
you.
into high school ball as quick as it did. But when you start paying kids, $4,000 or $5,000 to play football, and when you go in a locker room and that kid over there is making money and that kid over there is not, but they're working together, to me that's going to be hard. And if you get mad, you can transfer. The TWSA says you can transfer once. Well, that's still, we've got people moving all over creations trying to keep up with it. And I don't want to see it through to high school football. What I think it's done to college football is college football a few years ago was a lot better than it is now. And then you talked about that tradition and loyalty. If that matters to you, it'll make you a better person. But if you think that, well, I don't like what happened, I'm just going to take my toys and go somewhere else, what are you learning? And again, I don't want to get on a soapbox or anything, but I'm real concerned about how this is really coming into football in high school.
And I know, Gary, you got a statement. I'll let you add to that because that's an important topic.
It started in college. In college, it's ruined college football as far as I'm concerned, and it's fixing to ruin high school football because there's no loyalty. There's no kids. It's all about what can you do for me when at Huntington, kids grow up wanting to play Huntington Mustang football. Kids grew up at Southside wanting to play Hawk football.
Oh,
now
little kids.
Little kids.
4 and
They're out there,
5-year-olds.
they wanting to play. And then got an example right over here.
Yes.
And he was
And
one
a
that
good one,
grew
too.
up wanting to play football at Southside. But now, what can you do for me?
Yeah.
And I know, I think, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I think Southside lost 8 players this year, transferred.
Yes. Hey, we
And
played
it's just not
played
right.
for the
It's
love of
not
the game
right.
once upon a time.
It's not
And
right.
I'm not going to lecture because I could get in. I know where part of our problem comes from, and yes, the Tennessee State Legislature, you are responsible.
Amen.
I even lived
Yes,
in the
sir.
county at one time with, I'll go ahead and say it's Sapicki. I know all about it, and it's that's a whole nother show that we could take over an hour on. I want to first of all thank these two guys, and the Sports 731 Network is lucky to have the schools. We do the Jackson-Madison County Schools Game of the Week on Sports 731 Network. We do Huntington every week. And right here we got one of the finest color analysts, and he can analyze it. He's also got some color too. Trying to talk this guy into getting involved, but he says he's got things to do. One is supporting his sons and stuff now, and then Miss Grace probably's got honeydews for him too at home. But we want to thank like Jordan Taylor. Great player at Southside. Brother Mason, we'll give him some credit, even though he's up at Lexington. And I'm teasing about that. Mason, one of the great softball coaches, besides being a good football coach. We're blessed. We have Jared Mims and, of course, Roger Vestal and staff here. Sports 731 is going to bring you the best of high school football every Friday night. But starting the 14th, and Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong on this, 10 o'clock, hour and a half show, you're going to have some of the finest non-coaching minds. A few of them have coached before. Come in here. They're going to pick games. They're going to talk. They're going to bring you high school football every Friday morning during the football season on into the playoffs. And I believe we followed y'all all the way into the state championship game. We'll be there.
Brian and I did the state championship game.
You sure did. And I know we and Brian, let's give him a plug. Good play-by-play, man. I still think you could do it, though, Jerry. I really do. But we want to thank you. As I said, call 5 Friends, sports731.com, Facebook. Get the app. If you hadn't got the app, you're not living right now. Add years to your life by getting the Sports 731 app and listen to the flamethrower of sports truth in West Tennessee, Sports 731 Network. Thank you.